What is up, guys, and welcome back to Animation Station. Today we are doing something really simple. We are going to draw some clouds. We did have a subscriber ask how I do that particularly, so we are going to acknowledge that question today and draw some clouds. One thing I would say is you can't just draw clouds. There has to be some type of context, right? What type of clouds are we drawing? Are these rolling clouds? Is it a storm? Are we above the clouds? Are we below the clouds? Are we in the mix of the clouds? Like, are we in the dead middle of it where the action is happening? So we do need some context in order to bring the clouds into position. So in order to do that, I think before we do anything, we should do just a quick sketch. So we'll just grab a pencil here, and I'm thinking let's rename this as our sketch, and let's do a foreground. So we'll have some clouds in the foreground, kind of like that, and then we'll do a background or a midground like this. We'll maybe just put a little mountain there, like so. And then we're going to, let's do a something behind that as well. So maybe clouds that are kind of wrapping around a little bit like that. And then maybe just another cloud right here, since this is a tutorial about clouds. All right, so this will be just a basic sketch to give us an idea of what we're going for. And then we get an idea of what type of cloud we're gonna have. So we know we're up in the mountains, so more of a rolling cloud. So let's jump right in, and I'll show you how easy it is to make clouds. The first thing I would say is you need to have, if you're in Krita, I find that this here brush is best for clouds. It's the snow pile texture. And then I have my regular brush, which is the air soft brush, which I like, or the air brush. And then my ink brush, which I use all the time. And then I have a textured large splat. And then we have another one here, which is the textured noise. I find these brushes in combination can make clouds very easy. Most of the time, you only end up using this one and this one. So let's go ahead and grab this brush here. And before we actually do that, let's make a background. We need some contrast. So the contrast is going to give us a color to go with. So let's lock the sketch, grab the background there. Oh, sorry, that should be, yeah, the background. And let's go ahead and choose a color now. I usually do like red, reddish, orangish, you know, rolling clouds. So we're going to stay away from that and do something a little different. Let's do some regular bluish clouds that you would just see in the sky. So we're going to grab a nice light blue color here for the sky, and I'm going to go up here to this tool here. This is the gradient tool. We're going to select that, and we're just going to pull it up just like that. All right, let's make it a tiny bit darker for just a greater contrast. That's all. That's good. Let's move this to the middle just a little bit. Now, I'm not amazing at drawing clouds, the first thing I would say, but as I always say, it's not really about how good you are, it's just about how much fun you're having. So just keep that in mind. So we have our platform here. We're going to go with a bluish color, and we're going to jump right in. So let's go ahead and grab our first texture. And since these are the foreground clouds, we're going to lock that. We're going to do another layer, and I'm just going to say C1, cloud 1. And we're going to make this a little bit darker. Let's see. That's nice. So let's go lighter, see what lighter looks like. Okay, so that's a little bit too similar to the background. So let's make these clouds a little bit on the greenish tinge side. There we go. So you do want the clouds to slightly match the background, or it won't really make too much sense. There we go. So we're going to grab this. Now, when it comes to drawing clouds, the first thing I would say is you got to work them. So they don't always come out perfect. You actually have to work them, but there is a little bit of a technique to it. And the technique for drawing it is you need to have some type of structure or form, and that would be more of a pyramid form, I would say. So when you're drawing a cloud, you want to be drawing kind of in this shape, because generally when you look at clouds that are animated, they are in that shape. And the only reason they're in that shape is so that the viewer can understand that it's a cloud. Now, when you look at clouds in real life, they come in all different shapes and sizes. So technically, there is no limitation for what you can do. Now, we have to, when you're drawing clouds, you have to know where the sun is coming from. So let's bring the sun. Let's say the sun is up here in the right-hand corner, okay? So if the sun is up there in the right-hand corner, we are going to have a lot of reflection on this cloud, right? So on any rolls or bumps that this cloud has, it'll have a ton of reflection. So we're gonna go like this, all the way down, like so. And as it gets closer to us, just make those a little bit bigger, because this is the cloud in the foreground. And we can even go even a little bit bigger, just like that. So we have the sun beaming down on this part of the cloud, which means the bottom part of the cloud would be darker. But the problem with that is, with this picture, we don't actually see the bottom or the back of this cloud. So you have to be very careful with the darkening of the cloud. So let's go ahead and darken it just a little bit, like that, on each end. So this would be the backs of, or the other side that the light is not showing. Plus, you can just add a little bit of darkness to the cloud in general. It does not hurt the drawing. And this would be working the cloud. So we're actually working it to make sure that we get the look that we want, right? So nice and easy, just like that. Let us do a couple changes here. So first things we're gonna do is let's add another contrast here. So we're going to make the sun coming from the upper right corner of this canvas. We're going to use the same thing, the gradient tool. Let's grab a nice bright color, maybe like yellow, and like this here. Perfect. So let's make that come from here. Here we go. So we have the sun. Let's not make it too strong. There we go. You know what? A little bit stronger. Okay, and now since we have our two backgrounds in, so we got one gradient on the right, we got one gradient coming from the bottom, and we have our cloud, we're going to start grouping a couple things together. So for the cloud, we're just going to change this to 1, and we're going to change this to 2. So this is going to be a light layer underneath the cloud. We're going to hold down the Shift, Control, and G, group that together, and just name that Cloud 1. All right, so in this second layer here is where we want to bring in just a little bit of light. So you can use any type of brush that you want at this point. I'm going to stick with the same brush that we're using, and we're going to just bring some light into the cloud. And this is good for color as well, so you can actually add, so we know it's going to be, the light is reflecting off the top of the cloud here. So that's actually pretty rough. Let's bring down the opacity, make this a little bit smaller. And then I also sometimes like to go with the shape of the cloud. So you can see I'm going with the roundness of the cloud as well. Just letting some light in there. And again, this would be what I call working the cloud. And that would bring out some of these different colors and shapes and let it come into its own kind of artistic drawing, you know, let it just kind of transform and change. I would put some pinks, so I have a couple pinks in there going in now. They're really, really light, trying to get that kind of cotton candy look. We can bring the opacity up just a little bit for that one. And this is the reflection from the light or the sun. And then what you want to do for the rest of the clouds that you draw, you want to continuously use these same colors, and it's easy to do. All you do is use the eyedropper, you take a color from any part of the cloud, and you continue to draw. So let's go ahead and, I'd say paint in this case. Let's go ahead and add just a little bit of a darker red, bright dark red, in there. And these are what you would say like underlying colors. They're very hard to see. It's not meant to be super strong. And we're going to move on in a second because this cloud is almost done. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually take the black and bring the opacity way down. And we're just going to give it a little bit of a shade here, a little bit of shade on the back end so that the highlights show a lot more, a little bit more. So you can, if you're, I mean, on the screen recording, you're barely going to see this stuff. This is just going to be for when it's actually rendered. Well, you can see this color coming out quite a bit. It's really nice. So remember, this is the back side of the cloud that's seeing a lot less light. All right. So there's a few things you can do. So because this is in the foreground, I probably wouldn't blur this if I was animating right now. I would leave this as is, and then I would just get started on the next one. So this cloud is done. We'll lock that layer. We have our two contrasting backgrounds. We can merge those together for now. That'll be perfectly fine. We'll lock that, and we're just going to get started on our next cloud. So our next cloud is actually technically behind cloud 1. We can just add in a few layers there and create the group early. You can always create a group whenever you'd like. So we're just going to name it cloud 2 to keep things simple, and we're going to grab a color. So I'm going to start with the most prominent color here. And we're going to do the same thing. So when I do something like this, I always usually hide the background so I can actually see what the colors look like without being glazed over by a bunch of other colors. And we're gonna go in here, we'll just say this will be 1. So the number 1 layer, and then we'll start again with the second layer. All right, just a light dusting here, just like we did before. Now, a little bit of this cloud is going to be blocked by the mountain here. And like I said, clouds can be any shape, so there's literally no limitations on these here. I'm just going by the sketch. I'm actually just used to following my sketches, to be honest. It's very comfortable. Okay, so we got that one there. We're going to do the same thing. So the light on this side will be really close up here in this top right hand corner and less down here. So let's lighten this brush up. Let's even make it a little bit smaller. And there we go. We can make it a lot brighter. There we go. Just like so. And we're kind of making little tiny humps, you see? And you'll notice as you make these little tiny humps, the cloud will come into its own shape. And another thing to keep in mind is the light on a cloud will hit it everywhere. There's going to always be somewhere the light hits. So you can actually put the white inside the cloud all the way. So let's make this a little bit bigger. Now, a lot of these darks will be underneath this cloud, so we can make a little bit of darks there. And I don't know if you guys can see that very well, but I'm just putting a little bit of darks here. And then never be scared to just do a little bit of dusting with different brushes. So when I say dusting, we'll grab this brush here and just expand it. We'll change the color back to the cloud color. Maybe just do 1 hint lighter or 1 hint darker. And we're just gonna dust over that just to give it kind of a blur effect, just lightly. That was too much. That. And here we're just continuing to work this cloud. Now, before we add the lights, there are some times where you may want to add a lot of definition to your cloud. And if that's the case, go to the darkest color, which would be here. So we're going to take that darkest color. We're going to grab our airbrush because we want the lines to be kind of faint. We're going to go down 2 notches so it's darker, as you can see. You can even go a little bit more if you want. And then we're going to go, and I'm just going to go back to cloud 1 so to use this as an example. And then you want to make sure that you're creating a new layer so that you don't obstruct the cloud you've already done. So then you can go in and you can literally, you see that, make more defined marks just like that. So let's go ahead, I'll show you what I mean. Make a couple of defining marks here, because the light would be not on this part of the cloud. And also don't be scared to play. You can always play around with it. So we want some more defining marks. You see that? And this is the same thing. We're just working the cloud. And we are back on cloud 1 just to show you guys. I want to show you guys how you can just define things a little bit more. And we're following the lines that the cloud has already made for us. We're not making anything new now. We're just following the lines of the cloud so that it looks like it's all uniform. There we go. Okay, so that one looks really, really good. Now our clouds look a little bit more boisterous. They kind of almost look a little bit angry, or this cloud anyway. So let's get back to the other cloud here, cloud 2. Let's lock that layer, and we're gonna put in the highlights now. So we want the color, and as I said before, you can use any brush for this, doesn't matter. I'm just gonna go back to my main cloud brush, and you're gonna select the color. You see how Krita has automatically already merged that yellow and blue color there? So we're gonna go ahead and select that, and we are gonna use that to help with our highlights. We're gonna bring the opacity up. This one is a little bit closer to the sun. Whoops, sorry. We want to make sure this is on another layer. So 2 down here so that it goes behind all of our work. We don't want to ruin all of our cloud work that took us, you know, some time to do. And I mean, if you really take your time, if you're doing this in an animation, I would work on this for a little bit. Usually a background, you know, it depends on really what it is, but I can go up to a week sometimes just working on a background until I think that it looks good. Okay, grab our selection tool again. There's some pink in here, so we're gonna find the pink. That's gray. We want a little bit more of the pink here. And if we don't get it, it's okay. We can always recreate it very simply. All you do is you grab this color, then you bring up your color wheel, and you know for a fact that we were dealing with pink. Oh, it's right here. So you could just select it there too. It keeps a history of all the colors that you use. Okay, so we're gonna get in there with our pink. And now you can see that even though the clouds are not super professional or anything done crazy, when we put the cloud in its context, now we're dealing with a really interesting picture or an interesting scene. Okay, so let's just make this a little bit brighter and a little bit stronger on that sun. And let's bring back our background just to see. Okay, so our background looks good. Let's keep that background on as we continue to finish the color in here. Let's see if we can grab some highlighted spots. So we're looking for humps. Just gonna make some humps here that are yellow. And we're gonna bring in just a little bit more color and actually a little bit more white as well. There we go. And let's bring in some white and bring the opacity down. The white will kind of glaze over all this heavy yellow that we just put in there. Make it a little bit bigger. Okay. All right, so we're gonna bring in a little bit of cloud definition like we did to the first one there. Just going to hide the sketch just for a second to take another look at it. This just looking at it from a different angle, you know. You get used to seeing it in a certain light, and if you take things away, add things, it kind of helps with that. One thing I would normally do at this point is I would just change my paintbrush to an eraser, just like this, and I would just go in here and I would just kind of smoothen the bottom of this cloud out. Some clouds are really smooth. There you go. And then because this cloud is a little bit farther back, I would probably just add just a little bit of highlighting with this just white there. As you can see, we're just going to go pure white. Just going to have some highlighting up here. And you make this a little bit bigger. You can even bring that opacity up just a little bit. So the opacity just is the, it makes it more clear or translucent, sorry. So if you're wondering what that is, so we're just going in here, we're just making some whites or highlights at the back of the cloud. There we go. Let's see if we can make it a little bit bigger. Ah, now that's nice. That's what we want. Kind of gives it a faint outline of light. You see that? That's nice. Now, honestly, for this cloud, I may, like if I were doing this myself, I probably wouldn't put any more darks in it. But just for the cause of what we're doing today, we're just going to put a little bit more darks in here and get just a couple of bubbles out of this cloud here. But normally I may not, and I'll tell you why, because animation takes so much time that sometimes you want to just make sure it's done and move on. So sometimes I don't even go into too much detail, especially if you're seeing the scene for literally 2 minutes, you know, or sorry, not that, a couple seconds. I mean, a scene for 2 minutes would be really long. But if you're seeing it for just literally a split second, it would be even less of an idea to waste too much time on this cloud. Okay, that looks really good though. It really came out nice. All right, so that's the second cloud. Normally at this point too, I would merge these two together because it is a cloud behind the mountain, and I would just add a filter mask. So we're just going to add in there a filter mask, bring that blur up a little bit. There you go. Just hit OK, and that will save. Bring back our sketch, and now we have two clouds, and we got the mountain. Now, before you go on drawing a million different clouds, it's pretty easy. You can just hit this cloud 2, press copy, and then just paste the layer again, and you got a whole nother cloud to deal with here. So we'll select that cloud. Let's zoom out here, select it, right click. We're going to right click, going to say mirror horizontal, and you got yourself your third cloud, which will go up here in the corner like so. And we just have to get rid of this big ugly mushy blur thing here. Just bear with me. Cloud 2. Put our eraser, get rid of this stuff. Okay, so now you have all three clouds completely done. And when you put it into context with what is actually happening in the scene, which is the mountain, it should look pretty darn good. I'm gonna do a time lapse now. I'm gonna do a little bit of background work and put the mountain in, and then we'll look at it at the end and see how it turned out. Alright guys, that's it for today. I think you guys get the idea of how to draw clouds. Very simple. You have to put it into context. I just did a little mountain there. It's really not the greatest, but it was really fun to draw. We kept that kind of cotton candy kind of cloud look, which we were going for from the beginning. And it turns out really good. And don't be scared to put more colors in the background, because, and this is going to be really cool, next time you look at the sky and you see clouds, I want you to actually look and see how many colors are actually in the cloud. Keeping in mind, if you use darker colors like this, like a red or a cherry red, it looks more like a storm is coming or that it's dusk. If you use colors that are lighter, more on the bluish, purplish side, it will actually bring the background to look more like it's a bright day. Okay, so you can see how those colors might seem weird, but all those colors work really nice together to make a really tropical background there. Okay, so that is the tutorial I have for you guys on drawing clouds. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I really hope it helps. My advice at the end of the day is just take your time and do your best and have fun with it. Okay? All right, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Take care. Enjoy your day. Cheers. Bye.